Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Pure, good to see you as well. Evening, how you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles, CMF, good to see you as well. Joe, how you doing? How you been? JP, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? How's everyone doing today? Mike, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Joe, good to see you as well. Evening, brother. How you doing? How you been? Hello, brother Miles and CMF. Comatose, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Manny, evening, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well. Manny, how you doing? How you been? Mickey, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles. It's good to be here. Good to see you as well, Autistic. How you doing? How you been? So today, all good. Let's go, Mike. Today was the big day we were waiting for regarding tariffs. Liberation Day was today. And every country was hit by a certain amount of tariffs. Some it was, a 50-50 type of situation. So for example, the United Kingdom was essentially tariffed 10% because the UK only tariffs the US 10%. And some countries got hit a lot more harder. But it was also revealed to the entire world of how much the US has been abused by pretty much every country. Something that, as I said previously, CNN, decided not to report on of how much the US is being tariffed in this moment in time. Or essentially NBC News decided not to report on it as well. But the rest of the world has just got a taste of their own medicine when it comes to tariffs, because they were genuinely tariffing the US as much as they could, and their leaders of those countries were pretty much abusing their own citizens by tariffing that much to purchase American products. But it's not all doom and gloom, and I'll tell you why during this live. Hello, good to see you all. CMF, Dazzle, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, CMF. Arvin, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? I think they were very generous. Same. JP, I agree 100%. I think Trump was very generous. A lot of countries were tariffing the US some ridiculous amounts, 88%, 90%, and Trump only decided to tariff them back about 34 to 36%. That was extremely generous. But again, it's not all doom and gloom for the crypto space or for the market space in general, because what this has done is pressured countries to start waving the essentially white flag. And I'll explain what I mean by that the moment we start off the live. So, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. I'm hosting a live that you're watching right now. This is episode 291 of the CMF Live. And in this live, as always, Monday to Friday, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world transforming into essentially a digital space. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. Also, we do Q&As in this live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. Be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So, today essentially was Liberation Day. It was Tariff Day. By the way, I just want to say just a quick thing. Thank you so much to everybody from the CMF who has liked. If you're watching this on X, thank you so much to everybody from the CMF who has liked this live on X, who's retweeted this live on X, who's put a comment outside the live, hashtag XRPOME, and liked each other's comments as well, and outside essentially this live on X. Thanks so much to everyone on essentially YouTube who's watching right now from the CMF who's liked the live and put a comment outside the live as well. If you haven't done that, CMF members, just take 5 seconds to like and retweet this live. If you're watching this from X, if you're watching on YouTube, just drop a quick like as well. Now, a lot of things essentially happened today, and it was the biggest one essentially was without a doubt the Liberation Day, the tariff situation. I do believe what essentially Trump has done was needed. I've been saying this for the past essentially week or past month, that what Trump is trying to achieve with tariffs, it needs to be done. Tariffs are a way for Trump to be able to control essentially their allies and their competitors. It's the best way for Trump to be able to control the market space. It's the best way for Trump to get, essentially, in his own words, and it is correct, to make America great again. America needs to become great again to be able to control and have that control of the world. And I agree with everything he's done today. A lot of people might not agree. Some people might agree with what he's done today. But I'll tell you what, with all the tariffs that were dished out today, that is going to put a lot of pressure on countries around the world to start waving the white flag within 24, 36, or 48 hours. Because every country now knows that Trump isn't joking and he's not here to mess about either. And that these tariffs are going to impact these countries quite a bit, actually, tremendously, because America is the biggest market space in the planet, pretty much. And Europe, for example, the UK, Canada, Mexico, China, all these Asian, Middle Eastern countries, African countries, European countries, they all import into the US to sell their products. All these European companies, for example, they import essentially into the US to sell their products. And then if they're being tariffed, that means American citizens won't buy their products because it's just too overpriced. And that will make American citizens buy US products instead because it's cheaper than buying essentially European products or buying British products or buying Asian products or Middle Eastern products, which would essentially damage Europeans' economy. It would damage the UK's economy, but the UK got well off, with 10%. It would damage the Asian, essentially, market spaces as well, and so on. This is going to put pressure on these countries to start waving the white flag ASAP, because now they know that Trump isn't joking. And this whole, charade of all these countries saying, for example, essentially Germany saying, if we get tariffed by Trump, we're going to tariff them right back. Germany's economy is failing. And this tariff just made it 10 times worse for Germany. France's economy is failing. It's also made 10 times worse for France's economy. So honestly, it's not all doom and gloom, because what Trump has done is going to be well and over dusted very quickly. Because there's no way that all these countries that are now getting tariffed by the United States are going to outlast these tariffs in a month or 2 months or 3 months. Give it 6 months, most of these countries will go bankrupt. Genuinely, if you give it 6 months, most of these countries will go bankrupt. And they'll start hitting recession warnings. So this is not a long-term play, as Trump has always put it. Tariffs are short-term play. The reason why tariffs are short-term play is because those countries very well know that the longer they carry on trying to, act strong or tough in front of the US and say, we don't care, we'll tariff you right back, Trump knows that they're speaking from a weak position. The only person who's speaking from a strong position is Trump. The rest of the countries in this world are speaking from a weak position. The faster they realize that, the better it is for their own economies. Some will be intelligent enough to realize that, essentially they have to come to a conclusion very soon and decide to start waving the white flag. All they have to do is match Trump's tariffs or lower their tariffs. That's all they have to do. It's not really a difficult task. These European countries that are coming out and saying essentially that, Trump is tariffing us, he's bullying the Europeans by tariffing us. Not really. Honestly, the only thing that essentially these countries have to do is either match the tariffs by lowering their tariffs or lowering the tariffs in general. So, for example, if China wants, the US not to bully them, in their own words, well, China's tariffing the US 67%. The US is now tariffing them essentially 34%. Well, if China is essentially feeling threatened in any sort of a way, how about you lower your tariffs? Or essentially the European Union, who's tariffing the United States 39%. Trump has decided to only tariff them 20%. That's very generous, in my opinion. If I was Trump's shoes, I would tariff the European Union 40%. I would put more pressure on the European Union in terms of tariffs. So Trump was being very generous with 20% of the European Union. But honestly, all these countries, they're acting as if Trump is the one that's bullying them, as if the US is the one that's bullying them, where it's the other way around. It's the European countries that were tariffing the US 39%. Vietnam was tariffing the US 90%. Taiwan was tariffing the US 64%. Japan was tariffing the US 46%. India is tariffing the US 52%. South Korea is tariffing the US 50%. Thailand is essentially tariffing the US 72%. Switzerland is tariffing the US 61%. Indonesia 64%. Malaysia 47%. Cambodia 97%. South Africa 60%. Bangladesh 74%. Israel 33%, Philippines 34%, Pakistan 58%, Sri Lanka 88%. It's a very simple solution. How about these countries, instead of acting like victims, for some reason, all of these countries now that are getting tariffed back are all acting like they're the victims, that the European Union is the victim in this scenario of essentially Trump tariffing them back. Very generously, by the way. The European Union tariffing the US 39%, Trump only tariffed them 20% back. Very generous. But the European Union is the one acting like they are the victim in this solution. And it's essentially in this equation, the European Union somehow is the victim. Why? The US should be the victim in this scenario, who's getting tariff 39%. So it's very simple that essentially, if these countries want to restore that trade situation back to normal, how about you lower your tariffs and stop acting like the victims? And there's a lot of people right now essentially watching the news regarding Trump and thinking, and there's a lot of people that are essentially thinking Trump has done the right thing. Because with tariffs, Trump is essentially going to push these countries to do better, push these countries to the way Trump wants them to go, the right path, and also lower your tariffs. Because you do realize that, for example, the European Union tariffing the US 39%, it means that European citizens are purchasing essentially American products at a much more higher price, which means European citizens would rather not buy American products that much and rather essentially buy European products instead. So these countries that are tariffing the US quite high are actually ripping off their own citizens on US products. It's honestly not all doom and gloom in any sort of a way, because this has, what it essentially has done is put a lot of pressure on all of these countries that were mentioned today, essentially, you know, Norway, Costa Rica, Jordan, United Arab Emirates, New Zealand, Argentina, Ecuador, Honduras, Tunisia, Kazakhstan, Serbia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, El Salvador, Laos, Australia, Chile, Philippines, Pakistan, Turkey, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, India, Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, European Union, China, South Korea, Thailand, Switzerland, Indonesia, Malaysia. What this has done is just put an incredible amount of pressure on these countries. It's made them realize that Trump is not here to mess about. He's being very genuinely serious, and that these tariffs can get a lot more worse. The worse these tariffs gets, the worse it becomes for those countries. And let's just be honest, most of these countries around the world are standing on their last leg. China has a very crippling real estate economy, very crippling. France also has a very real estate market, a very bad real estate market that's also crippling. Germany has a massive automotive crippling market space. A lot of countries are standing on their last leg and trying to battle Trump in a trade war. They're speaking from a weak position. Trump is speaking from a higher position, and they are speaking from a weak position. This is why I say the faster they realize, the better it is. If they don't realize fast enough, they'll crash their own economies and then blame it on Trump and act like the victim in this scenario. Well, they're not the victim. America is the victim in this scenario in terms of tariffs. America has been handing out millions to billions to trillions of dollars to all these countries in handouts in that whole US aid situation, which Elon Musk closed the office doors and kicked everybody out. But America has been handing out handouts. Sure, America has done, you know, not some sort of good movements around the world, but it's also done a lot of funding towards the good. It's funded a lot of governments, a lot of politicians, there's a lot of businesses around the world. And what do they get in return? Tariffed by these countries. And now that the tables are turned, these countries are the victims, and America is the big bad wolf. It's an absolute load of BS. But this is why I say it's not all doom and gloom, because these countries have no pressure but to essentially come to the conclusion that they need to start waving the white flag. You know, Keir Starmer is not a very respected man inside the United Kingdom. Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He's not very respected in any sort of a way. It's very understandable why. But he did one good thing that a former, essentially, Greece finance minister did. So today on the BBC, which the BBC struggles to tell any sort of truth when it comes to the news. But today it was surprising. The BBC invited somebody over from Greece to do an interview with. Now, this man is the former finance minister of Greece, and Greece's economy is also not doing too well. And the BBC asked this man a question and said, do you think Trump is doing the right thing in terms of tariffs? And do you think that the European Union or any other country that's trying to go head to head with Trump, you know, do they have a chance? What's going to happen there? And the Greek finance minister, former Greek finance minister, said, it's a losing battle. He said, any country that decides to go up against Trump is a losing battle. They're speaking from a position of weakness. America is the biggest market space on the planet. And he said, the longer these countries carry on the charade of essentially, we are strong, we're going to tariff the US back, the higher the chance these countries will be heading towards a recession. He said the only person that actually, for once in his life, did the right thing is Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer has done tremendous, terrible work for the United Kingdom. Terrible. As a prime minister, he's not great in any sort of way. But the former finance minister of Greece said the only man essentially out of this whole tariff situation, the only man that did the right thing was Keir Starmer. Because Keir Starmer said, we're not going to go tit for tat with essentially, Donald Trump. We're just going to let Donald Trump tariff us, and we're going to tariff them the lowest possible. Because Keir Starmer understood that if they go into a tariff battle with Trump, it's a losing battle. So instantly, Keir Starmer pulled out and said, we're waving the white flag. We're only doing 10%. You can do 10% back. We'll call it a day. But the European Union is obviously trying to act like the victim in this scenario, even though they're the ones tariffing the US 39%, which means European citizens have to purchase US products at a much more higher price. So the European Union is ripping off their own citizens by charging 39% on imports from America. The European Union is charging America 39% on tariffs by ripping off the United States. And they're acting like the victim in this scenario. They're saying Trump is the one that's bullying us. Make it make sense. But honestly, it is genuinely not all doom and gloom. It's not all doom and gloom in any sort of a way, because this is going to get wrapped up so quick, it's going to be unreal. Because the intelligent leaders around the world, prime ministers or presidents, will come to a conclusion very fast that they need to essentially lower their tariffs like this, or their economy is going to be going on a downswing. Some countries have already decided to essentially do interest rate cuts. And also the former finance minister of Greece said in the BBC that these countries, essentially the BBC reporter said to the finance minister of Greece, the former finance minister of Greece, can the UK, the EU just, work within themselves? Just forget about doing a lot of exports and imports and just work within themselves. Can the European countries just work together and, slowly push out the US? Can China just work within itself and just slowly push out the US? Can all these countries just, work within their own communities, in their own jurisdictions, just push out the US market? And the simple answer is no. Genuinely no. Because if businesses want to grow, they have to go international. Biggest market space on the planet is the US. If a country's GDP needs to grow, then it needs to do international trade. And the biggest market space is the US. So this is why I'm saying it's not doom and gloom in any sort of a way at all. This is going to get wrapped up so quick because the world just realized that Trump is not talking BS. He's here to stand his ground. He's here to essentially pressure these countries to start doing the right thing. And this is just the beginning of essentially Trump's tariff plans. The last president that did this was Nixon. Nixon was the last president of the United States to essentially establish tariffs. And when Nixon did it, he made a stronger America. When Nixon did this, he made America strong, very strong. Trump is just following his footsteps, doing the exact same thing that man did, but with a twist. So, honestly, what's happened today, it's not doom and gloom in any sort of a way. It's going to get wrapped up very quickly because all these countries are going to realize, yeah, we need to lower our tariffs. Otherwise, we're going to go bankrupt and the US is still going to be standing there strong. And let's just not forget, if the US goes down, everybody goes down. Every market space on the planet goes collapsing. As the International Monetary Fund put it, or the Bank of International Settlements, if the American markets sneeze, the world market catches a cold. So it's really not all doom and gloom because intelligent leaders of countries will realize this within 24, 36, or 48 hours, that they should start waving the white flag. Morons of leaders of these countries will try to carry this on for weeks and months, which could cause a recession within their own country, which then probably later on they'll blame it on Trump for their country going into a recession when it was their country, in fact, that wouldn't lower their tariffs. But honestly, this just reminds me of this like liberal mentality. You know how in the United States, the liberals and the Democratic politicians, they would point the finger towards everybody. The liberals and the essentially Democratic politicians, they will point the finger to everybody and say, you are the bad guy, you are this, you are that. And they'll name them, they'll name call them, they'll say everything they can to that person and bully that person into the ground. is what the liberals and essentially democratic politicians would do. But then when the tables get turned, the liberal politicians, democratic politicians start playing the card of the victim. They start acting like the victim, saying, how could you say that to us? How dare you say that to us? And they start acting like the victims. Same mentality is going on in Europe right now and the rest of the countries around the world. Because they're tariffing the US 67%, which means they're ripping off their own citizens in their own countries. And they're tariffing, essentially they're ripping off the US at the same time. And they're acting like the victims here. They're saying, we're the victims. We're the ones that are being bullied, not Trump, not the US. We're the ones that's being bullied, even though you're the ones that's tariffing the US 67%. This is straight up liberal and democratic politician rule book of playing the victim. And a lot of news channels are feeding into this BS completely. A lot of news channels are feeding into this BS. Essentially saying, that, the Europe is being bullied by Trump and the US and so on. Also, there are some moronic news channels coming out and saying that the US is going to get damaged economically very bad and the US's economy is going to crash. No, it isn't. It genuinely isn't. Because it will take a lot more longer time for the US economy to crash than it would take for Europe. Because the countries that are holding Europe together are France, Germany, and Italy, and Spain. And all of those countries are crippling right now. Their economies are very bad. So, no, it isn't. I don't know what news channel, what journalists will keep on coming out and saying the US is going to get damaged very bad in this tariff battle. The US is going to lose this tariff battle. And Europe is going to win the tariff battle. Canada is going to win the tariff battle. Or essentially, and China is going to win the tariff battle. Or Mexico is going to win the tariff battle against the US. No, they're not. What la-la land, deluded land are you living in? The chances of those countries winning a tariff battle against the US, if they go head-to-head, you have a higher chance of winning the lottery 42 times before America goes bankruptcy, compared to essentially Canada going bankrupt first, or Europe going bankrupt first, or China going bankrupt first, or Mexico going bankrupt first. You genuinely have a higher chance of winning the lottery 42 times, getting shook by lightning 72 times, than the US going down before Europe goes down this tariff battle war, or China goes down essentially in this tariff battle war, or Canada goes down, or Mexico goes down, or any other moronic country that decides to go head-to-head on a tariff battle with the biggest market space in the world. Because Trump is speaking from a position of authority and power, while the rest of the countries are speaking from a position of weakness. So generally not doing all doom and gloom in any sort of way, because this is going to put an immense amount of pressure on these countries to wrap things up very quickly. Genuinely very quickly. That's the other side the news is not telling you. Now, before we go through the news, actually, here it is. Markets essentially reacts to Trump's Liberation Day. In a move aimed at reshaping global trade, President Donald Trump announced a sweeping new tariff policy, imposing a baseline 10% tariff on all imports, while introducing essentially tariffs that mirror half of each trading partner's respective rate. The announcement essentially sent ripples through financial markets as investors assess their implications for inflation, corporate earnings, and supply chains. The immediate market reaction was mixed. US stock essentially futures saw early losses as investors digested the impact of the tariffs, particularly on the multinational corporations reliant on foreign policy, essentially supply chains. The S&P 500 and the Dow Jones, essentially industrial average, both dipped in the pre-market tradings, with tech-heavy Nasdaq, with its exposure to global semiconductor supply chains, took a sharper hit. Bitcoin initially climbed slightly as Trump's speech began, but quickly stabilized around $86,000, reflecting a measured essential response from cryptocurrency traders. Gold prices edged higher as investors sought safe haven assets amid concerns about global trade disruptions. Meanwhile, the US dollar strengthened against emerging market currencies. Do you see that what's happening? The US dollars strengthened against every other currency in this tariff battle. And for some odd reason, the Europe thinks they're going to win the tariff battle. The tariff battle has just started, and the US dollar is strengthened. Europe's not too much. Pounds, not so much. Rubes, not so much. Yen, not so much. Canadian dollars, not so much. Australian dollars, not so much. You see where this is going? This is the beginning of tariff battles, and the US dollar is already strengthened compared to the rest. The beginning. And Europe thinks they can carry on a trade tariff battle war. This is the beginning, and they're already showing signs of crumbleness. Manufacturing and consumer goods companies with essentially significant exposure to Asia faced immediate scrutiny. Trump's tariff structure places heavy levies on imports from Cambodia, 49%, Vietnam, 46%, Bangladesh, 37%, and China, 34%, all of which are critical, essentially sourcing hubs for textiles, electronics, and consumer goods. US retailers then essentially that depend on these supply chains are expected to face cost pressures, potentially passing higher prices onto consumers. Tech companies reliant on Taiwanese 32% and South Korean 25% semiconductor imports also brace for potential supplies and chain disruptions. Auto manufacturers, which source essentially components from Japan 24%, European Union 20%, saw stock volatility essentially as investors consider potential cost increases. During his announcements, Trump declared, "We have to take care of the American people," reinforcing his administration's commitment to reducing trade imbalances and bolstering domestic production. However, analysts actually warn that the policy could provoke retaliation from trading partners, triggering a new round of trade disputes. The coming weeks will reveal whether Trump's tariffs gambit will succeed in essentially reshoring jobs, or whether it risks sparking essentially other pressures that could weigh on the consumer spending and economic growth. Markets will be closely watching for responses from foreign governments, corporate earnings adjustments, and potential essentially legal challenges from affected industries. These countries are going to be waving the white flag very soon. If they're smart enough, they're going to be waving the white flag very soon. The UK already waved the white flag very soon. And a tremendous amount of companies, foreign companies, already are moving manufacturing to the United States. So even though if their leaders are being absolute morons, so even though if European leaders are being morons in this scenario, even if Middle Eastern leaders are being morons, Asian leaders are being morons, or the UK's leader being a moron, or Canadian leaders being a moron, or Latin American countries being a moron, the companies within those countries already decided to shift their manufacturing to the US. So the CEOs and the CFOs and the CTOs of companies in those countries have already decided to shift to the US in manufacturing. So even if their leaders are trying to say, we're going to go to a tariff battle with the US, the companies within those countries are not listening to their leaders and saying, you know what, we're going to move manufacturing to the US. You can carry on your imaginary deluded tariff battle while we just move our manufacturing to the US. And that's what's happening. There's a tremendous list of manufacturing that's moving to the US. And some of them are investing about $100 billion into US market space. There's a lot of also car manufacturing that's moving to the US. Rolls-Royce is one of them. Rolls-Royce is moving manufacturing to the US so they don't get tariffed. So honestly, even this is why I say it's not all doom and gloom, because intelligent leaders of countries, presidents and prime ministers will realize that tariff battles are not really the way to go forward with Trump, because that's a losing battle for their entire country. And if they don't realize it, the companies within those countries have already realized it. They're all moving slowly to the United States for manufacturing. So even if the liberal and democratic politicians want to go head to head with Trump because they don't like Trump, the companies within those liberal and democratic politician countries have realized that tariffs are not really the situation. They don't want to be caught up in it. They would rather just move manufacturing to the US and let their liberal and democratic leaders hate Trump as much as they want, but they're not going to lose business because they're moving to the US. That's also creating a lot of jobs in the US. Toyota's been one of them. Honda's been one of them. Hyundai's been one of them. Rolls-Royce is one of them. There's so many car manufacturers right now moving to the US, and they couldn't care less what their leaders think, what their essential prime ministers or presidents think about Trump. They're moving manufacturing. So that's why it's not all doom and gloom. Things are actually moving rapidly quick. And Trump was very generous, extremely generous with the tariffs. Because I'll be honest, if I was in Trump's position, genuinely, if I was in Trump's position, I'm being very honest, I would have tariffed people a lot more higher. I would have tariffed countries a lot more higher. A lot more higher. Europe got to walk away with 20% tariffs. Their tariff in the US 39%. If I was Trump, I would have minimum tariff on the US would be 40%. If they're tariffing us 39%, I would tariff them back 40% minimum. Trump was very generous with 20%. I would have tariffed countries a lot more higher. The higher the tariffs, the quicker they realize that they're standing in a weak position and that essentially the United States is standing in a strong position. But Trump was very generous, in my opinion, extremely generous. Now, before we go through the next essential news on tonight's live, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight to the next news. As I said previously, this is live right now, as it always is, Monday to Friday. If you do have essentially any comments, put it down inside the comment section. I read everybody's comments one by one. I don't miss out on anyone's comments. So let's go through the comment section first, and then we go straight into the next news, which is also relatable to tariffs and a perspective coming out of Grayscale. So let's see where we are at inside the comment section. We were here. Evening, Miles. How's it going, brother? It's going great, Kelly. Good to see you. How you doing? Evening, Miles, the CMF. Pierce, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? 100%. Let's go, Dazzle. Morning, Miles, the CMF. Shelly, good to see you as well. Morning. How you doing? How you been? Joe says, did China block the $23 billion sale of Panama Canal ports from BlackRock? No, I don't think so. Hi, Miles, the CMF. Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? What's up, Miles? What's up, CMF? Kerry, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Can we get a rundown of today's news? Yes. Mainly, we're going to talk about tariff news, regulation news. There's also a lot of essentially crypto news is happening behind the scenes, which we're going to go from tonight's live. So there's a lot of positivity also on tonight's live as well. Good evening, Miles, the CMF. Free and Feather, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles and family. Ian, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Morning, Miles, the CMF. Hope everyone is well. Solomon, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Dazzle says, I agree 100%. Let's go, Dazzle. Adi says, hi, Miles, and all in the CMF. Hope everyone is excellent. Let's go, Adi. How you doing? Joe says, so has the UK come out okay today with all these tariffs then? Yes, definitely, in my opinion. The UK decided not to tariff the US too much, just 10%. Trump decided just to do 10% back. And that's how it should be. It should just be, 10%, 10%, 5%, 5%, not 88%. That's just ridiculous, or 64%, or 39%, or 55% tariffs. That is ridiculous that some of these countries are charging the US. But yeah, the UK definitely got to walk away of 10%, which is not that bad, to be very honest, compared to the rest of the countries. And even with 10% tariffs, the UK is already feeling the pressure. The UK government is already feeling the pressure of 10% tariffs. Imagine the rest of the countries are getting tariffs, above 20%. How are you today, Miles, the CMF? Lena, I'm doing good. Good to see you. How you doing? Dazzle says, big respect. I was shocked to see how nice Trump was being, 100%. Same. I was very shocked that he was, essentially being too generous. Good evening, Professor Miles and the rest of the CMF family. Funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Shelly says, it's doom and gloom for now. Crypto is down. They have banned beef from Australia, so the price for us will hit hard. So my overall wealth just went off the cliff. I know it's only short term. Facts. It is definitely 100%. Regarding tariff situations, it's short term 100%. And Shelly gets that. Let's go. Trump did not mention Russia or Iran. Yes, because both those countries are sanctioned. For anybody wondering, and CNN, for example, was wondering, why didn't Trump mention Russia? Because Russia is sanctioned. What tariffs? They can't buy anything from the US. They can't import anything to the US. Russia is essentially sanctioned by the US. When a country is sanctioned, they don't get tariffed because they don't import anything to the US. So always remember that. Funky brother, always remember that. The reason why Russia or Iran was not mentioned essentially in this list of tariffs is because they're sanctioned by the US, which means they don't import anything to the US or export anything to those countries either. So there's no point of putting sanctions. There's no point of putting tariffs on a sanctioned country. But that's why. But CNN made it look like, essentially Trump is still friends with Putin, and that's why Trump is not going to tariff Russia. The reality of it is Russia is sanctioned. They can't import or export anything to the US. Neither can the US to them. These are all great. If people don't think that, don't know what they're talking about, sorry. Facts, JP, let's go. Shelly says, and luckily, but yeah, Funky brother, great question, great statement, because a lot of people don't know that. So great statement, Funky brother. And luckily, we were smart enough to think ahead and sell what we needed to before these announcements, thinking it might happen. So not as bad as it could have been. Facts. Let's go, Shelly. Comatose, good move, Shelly. Definitely. Comatose, great tariff breakdown, Miles. Say it louder for the whining liberals, Canada media making Orange Man enemy number one. They definitely are. Jake Calver said $5 to $10 XRP long term. I hope much higher than that. I don't know who Jake Calver is in any sort of way. This is not an insult to Jake Calver in any sort of way either. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, but opinions are not facts, and facts are facts. So in other words, stick to the PDF documentation, stick to essentially the contract, stick to the licensings, and you'll have a better idea of what the price point is going to be. Anybody can throw out price targets. Anybody can say essentially XRP is, going to be this amount, or XLM is going to be that amount, and essentially Solana is going to be sitting at this price, and so on and so on. It's an opinion. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. Every single person on this planet is entitled to an opinion, but opinions are not facts. So stick to the facts is what I would say. So Austin, don't take what Jake Calver or anybody says on price points as gospel in any sort of a way. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, but opinions are not correct, and facts are facts. How does this affect XRP? How does tariffs affect XRP? It affects the crypto market space, because even though Bitcoin, and by the way, where are all the Bitcoin maxis? Where are all the Bitcoin maxis right now? Genuinely, great. This is like a question on my mind right now. Where are all the Bitcoin maxis who are saying Bitcoin is digital gold, Bitcoin is safe haven, Bitcoin is the freedom coin, Bitcoin is the economic coin that's going to, go against inflation, go against economic situations and scenarios of tariffs and all that? Where are all the Bitcoin maxis? Why is Bitcoin tumbling? Why is gold doing actually quite well? Actual gold. Why is actual gold doing quite well? And Bitcoin, which the Bitcoin maxis have been saying for the longest time, is digital gold. It's a risk-off asset. Bitcoin is a safe haven. Where are the Bitcoin maxis now? The Bitcoin maxis have all silently disappeared. Genuinely, all the Bitcoin maxis have just silently disappeared. Because Bitcoin maxis' slogan was, Bitcoin is a safe haven. Bitcoin is digital gold. So why are all the investors running towards actual gold? Even though Bitcoin is the digital gold, or it's the safe haven token. You know why it's not? Because it isn't. It never was. I've said this for the longest time regarding Bitcoin. Look, unfortunately, we don't have rules and regulations inside the crypto space. We don't have rules and regulations inside the crypto space, which means every crypto project follows, unfortunately, Bitcoin's footsteps, because we don't have rules and regulations. If we have rules and regulations, then crypto assets can decouple themselves from Bitcoin regarding their contracts or licensings, and essentially get a foot on the utility side. But Bitcoin has no utility pretty much, and we follow its footsteps because we have no choice in terms of regulations. And Bitcoin is not really a safe haven or a risk-off asset. It's more like a risk-on asset in every situation. And it follows the NASDAQ. And what did the NASDAQ do today? Dropped. But, Bitcoin maxis have been telling everybody. There was a guy that's a big Bitcoin maxi person. He made 2 videos on X. There was some guy that was a Bitcoin maxi person. I don't know what his name is, and I couldn't care less what his name is. But there was a Bitcoin maxi guy on X who made 2 videos, and both of those videos, he was crying his eyes out, saying, why is the US accepting XRP and Solana, Cardano? Bitcoin is the only safe haven asset. Bitcoin is only the risk-off asset. The rest of the crypto assets are crap. They're, essentially Ponzi schemes. Bitcoin is the digital gold. He was crying his eyes out in that video. Where is he now? Why is he silent all of a sudden? What happened to his precious risk-off asset? What happened to his precious digital gold? Because for sure hell isn't reacting like gold right now. I just need to put that out there as well. Genuinely. He was crying his eyes out in his video and saying, oh, XRP shouldn't be accepted by the US because Bitcoin is the only risk-off asset. Bitcoin is the only digital gold. Bitcoin is the only hedge against inflation, hedge against economic situations. Bitcoin is the definition of a risk-on asset. It's genuinely the definition of a risk-on asset. Wars happen, Bitcoin tumbles. Tariffs happen, Bitcoin tumbles. Anything happens, Bitcoin tumbles. But somehow, Bitcoin maxis keep on saying, digital gold, risk-off asset. Where? Where is this digital gold risk-off asset you're talking about? And where is that crybaby that was crying about Bitcoin, that Bitcoin Maxi guy. He's very silent now. He's very silent. How does this affect XRP? Well, that's, you know, regarding that, because we're following Bitcoin's footsteps. Bitcoin follows the Nasdaq, unfortunately. Hi, Miles and CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? 100% the man did say that regarding the former finance minister of essentially of Greece. Yep. What are the next steps now for crypto? What are we waiting for to rise back up again now? What are we waiting for essentially regarding the crypto space to rise back up again? Well, these countries need to start waving the white flag. So there's two things that could boost the crypto space back up. One is that a multitude of countries, one by one, should start waving the white flag. That would show great signs towards the crypto space because there's no more trade tensions going on. So the more countries that wave the white flag towards Trump, the better it is for the crypto space. Two, option number B, rules and regulations. In the background, if rules and regulations keep on getting passed inside the United States, that will also boost the crypto market space. So two things right now can boost the crypto market space. This is why I say it's not all doom and gloom in any sort of a way. For you non-UK, Keir Starmer is the most hated man in the UK at the moment. He's the worst prime minister the UK has ever had. Facts. Hello, Miles. How you doing? Random. Good to see you as well. Hi, Miles. You still think the impact of this will last 48 hours max? Well, if a country is intelligent enough, they'll realize it within 48 hours max. If any country is intelligent enough, I mean, the companies within those countries have realized and they started waving the white flag. A lot of foreign companies have started waving the white flag to the United States and moved manufacturing to the US, even though the jurisdiction of those countries are not waving the white flag because somehow they hate Trump because he's the bad guy in the situation, not the countries that have been tariffing the US 39% for some odd reason. They're the victim in this scenario. But if a country is intelligent enough, it shouldn't take more than 48 hours. It's effing BS. Let's go. And if the people can't see it, then just don't be here. Facts. So when is Trump going to make America great again with crypto as markets are rolled down? Well, he's actually making America great again. He's building that foundation. He's making that foundation for the crypto space. Behind the scenes, as I've been explaining for the past week, there's a lot of things happening for the crypto space. Because look, I'll be very simple. Because of Trump, a lot of positives have happened for the crypto space and also going to continue happening for the crypto space. Because of Trump, the SEC dropped all major lawsuits regarding the crypto space. Because of Trump, the CFTC closed down their task force that was suing crypto companies. Because of Trump, the OCC is not going after essentially banks and telling them not to use crypto assets. Because of Trump, the FDIC is no longer essentially harassing banks regarding crypto assets. Because of Trump, essentially, the CFTC and the SEC are coming together after a decade to bring in rules and regulations with the help of White House. There's a lot of things because of Trump, this is happening regarding the crypto space. Because of Trump, America becoming the capital of cryptocurrencies, every country is following their footsteps now. Because of Trump, South Korea essentially is establishing a crypto reserve and thinking about what to add into it, and they're following Trump's footsteps. There's a lot of reasons because of Trump regarding crypto. So, you know, on the scenes, the tariff and the war situations are happening, and they need to happen. Behind the scenes, the foundation is being laid in. You see, Trump is not going to build a house of cards when it comes to the crypto space. He wants to build a strong foundation for the crypto space with essentially legislations passed by Congress and so on. So there's a strong foundation to go forward on, and that will never be a house of cards ever again. And that's what's happening behind the scenes. And there's a lot of positivity for the crypto space because of Trump this, because of Trump that. And it's all positive. Because of Trump, the Ripple case came to an end. Because of Trump, Coinbase is not being sued by the SEC. Because of Trump, Kraken is not being sued by the SEC. Because of Trump, Crypto.com is not being sued by the SEC. I could go on for days of because of Trump. This is happening as a positive for the crypto space. So don't see price action of 1 or 2 days or even a week or of a month of Trump hasn't achieved anything for the crypto space. He's achieved more for the crypto space than every country put together. Because this is the biggest market space on the planet. The US is the biggest market space on the planet. Whatever they do, everybody else follows. Like sheep. Because they have no choice. Because that is the biggest market space on the planet. So Trump has achieved a lot for the crypto space. More than any other country combined together. Miles, you have been able to teaching our family in worldwide knowledge. Greatly appreciated. no problem, go and drink it anytime. But yeah, funky brother, Trump has achieved a lot for the crypto space. So don't look at price action of 1 or 2 days or a week of price action or a month of price action of Trump hasn't achieved anything. He's achieved more than anybody saw coming for the crypto space. So don't see price action as just, oh, he's achieved nothing. He's achieved a lot. We are essentially moving to a hybrid digital system. We are not far off, so don't worry about the markets down. Facts, I agree 100%. Hello, Miles and CMF. Good to see you, Orvin. How you doing? How you been? As always, gold and the dollar is up and BTC is down. Facts. Honestly, where are those Bitcoin maxis? Where are the crybabies from Bitcoin maxis? They've all disappeared. Every single Bitcoin maxi has disappeared. Every single Bitcoin maxi who was making videos and tweeting out Bitcoin is digital gold, Bitcoin is the safe haven asset, Bitcoin is the risk-off asset, every other crypto asset is trash because Bitcoin is different from everybody. Where is the difference in Bitcoin? Unfortunately, gold, it looks very different to Bitcoin in terms of price point. Gold is doing tremendously well in times of inflation, tariffs, wars. But somehow, according to Bitcoin maxis, Bitcoin is very different to every other asset. It's the best risk-off asset. It's the best safe haven there is out there. It's very difficult to see it because in every situation it disappears. Miles, is there any good news for XRP tomorrow? Yeah, there's a good news for XRP to go through tonight's live as well. Evening CMF, thank God Trump won. Facts. Let's go, Crypto Miles. What up, Crypto Miles and CMF? Ray, let's go. How you doing? But as I said, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of positive things that are actually happening inside the crypto space. And regarding those countries, they're going to start waving the white flag very soon. My bad, that was off topic. Hi, Miles and CMF. George, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Where are you all? Facts. Nope, not Bitcoin. Time to wake up. Bitcoin maxis or delusional Miles. Facts. He's in the basement crying, lol. Facts. Cryptocurrencies may come back. Can crypto help me? Yeah, don't worry. Nothing's going to be happening to the crypto space. We're not going away in any sort of way. We're actually getting much more stronger as time goes by. Now, Bank of Japan, regarding the tariffs that have came out today, the Bank of Japan considers interest rates aimed US tariffs. The potential interest rate change by the Bank of Japan reflects the impact of US tariffs on global and domestic trades, signaling an economic caution. Every country is now going to revalue themselves. Every country is going to go back to the drawing board and start revaluing themselves and considering and cutting essentially unnecessary spendings. First of all, it's not just the US who's now cutting unnecessary spending. Every country is now going to go back to the drawing boards and start cutting unnecessary spending is what's going to be happening. And every country is about to be doing interest rates because of Trump. This should also put pressure on Jerome Powell, who also hates Trump as the Fed chairman, to start putting interest rate cuts. Now, the governor of the Bank of Japan highlighted the potential impacts of the US tariffs on trade, essentially Japan's trade. Yuda expressed that global trade uncertainties might require reassessment of Japan's economic strategies. He stated essentially, depending on the size and area of tariffs, it's possible they will have essentially a large impact trade activities among nations. Uncertainties are high, so we will be closely watching developments of policies to grasp their economic impacts more precisely. The Prime Minister of Japan also commented on the potential economic impact, voicing concerns about tariffs, and he plans to essentially communicate the adverse effects of US tariffs on Japan to mitigate the risk. The potential shift in the Bank of Japan's interest rates could influence global financial markets, adjusting essentially investor strategies. Business confidence remains stable despite potential trade disruptions, as shown in the latest essentially Takan survey. Trade tensions have historically impacted global market dynamics, leading to potential financial and regulatory changes. Investors essentially may see increased volatility in traditional and digital markets as uncertainty prompts asset reallocation and strict adjustments. The combination of potential interest rates changes and tariffs uncertainties indicates a period of financial evolution of Japan's policymakers. They might need to implement measures that stabilize economic growth aimed at these emerging trade challenges. The situation presents essentially both risk and opportunities for market participants. It underscores essentially the interconnectedness of global economic policies and highlights the ongoing challenges in global trade frameworks. So Japan is about to be doing rate cuts because that's the only way Japan is going to survive under essentially this tariff situation. But also Japan has decided to have some communication with the US to lower their tariffs also, because that's the only way they're going to genuinely survive, by having communications with Trump and Japan lowering their tariffs while the US also lowers their tariffs at the same time. A lot of countries are going to start doing that. Japan was just smart enough to realize it day one. So less than 24 hours, less than a few hours, let's just say, Japan already realized that they need to start waving the white flag. And you know how every citizen, for example, every retail section person wants a Doge department in their country. If you're a liberal or essentially a conservative politician, obviously you hate Doge as a department because they're the ones that are cutting their wages because they unnecessarily spend taxpaying money. But every country wants a version essentially of Doge. If you live in the UK, we want our own Doge departments. If you live in Europe, essentially if you live in Europe or any European countries, in other words, you want a Doge department. If you live in Japan, you want a Doge department, Singapore, Hong Kong, Canada, Mexico, China, and no matter what country you're in, the people of all of those countries want a Doge department because it cuts unnecessary spending. Well, with Trump's tariff policies, every country is about to be getting their own Doge department. And Japan has just shown signs of that. So Trump essentially has pushed every country to creating some sort of a Doge department to start cutting unnecessary spending. And Japan is the first one to be doing it. They're going to cut unnecessary spendings. So in other words, they're going to create their own Doge department to cut unnecessary spendings. And also, they're going to start waving the white flag and have communications with Trump within hours after the tariffs were dropped. Fidelity is what we're going to talk about next. So while the tariff situations are going on and also the war situations are going on, Fidelity has just unveiled a new concept, a no-fee crypto IRA for US investors. So this is why it's not all doom and gloom, and there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. While everybody's focus is on tariffs or on war, behind the scenes, there's actually a lot of things happening for the crypto space that are positives. And if it was a bad time for the crypto space, if right now was a bad time for the crypto space, if it was the worst time to be inside the crypto space, then you got to ask yourself some questions on, for example, why has Fidelity decided to release a no-fee crypto IRA for US investors now? If this is the worst time for the crypto space, if this is doomed pretty much because of tariffs and because of wars for the crypto space, why is Fidelity introducing an IRA for US investors today, out of all days, on Tariff Liberation Day? Fidelity, one of the largest financial services firms in the United States, has launched a no-fee crypto IRA, a move poised to make digital asset investing more accessible for retirement-focused Americans. This new offering allows US residents aged 18 and above to invest in popular cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and so on through various other IRA types, including Roth, traditional, and rollover IRAs. The Fidelity Crypto IRA stands out essentially by eliminating account fees, making an attractive option for both first-time crypto investors and seasoned traders looking to diversify their retirement portfolios. The reason why Fidelity is offering such a service now is because it's not doomed for the crypto space. The crypto space is not, finished and forgotten with, or it's going to go settling all the way downwards for the longest time. It's because it isn't. While everybody's focused on tariffs and wars, which are temporary, because they have to be, because no country is going to withstand tariffs from the United States for more than 48 hours. Genuinely. If they go for a month, they're bankrupt. Cold storage, essentially custody, adds a significant layer of protection, ensuring long-term investors have peace of mind when planning for their financial future. Fidelity's reputation for compliance and security offers an essentially additional level of trust for those still hesitant about crypto investing. By combining traditional essentially IRA structures with digital assets, Fidelity's new product opens the door to potential tax-advantaged crypto investings. Whether you're essentially eyeing a Roth IRA for tax-free withdrawals or traditional IRA for upfront essentially deductions, the crypto IRA makes it easier to align your long-term financial goals with the crypto strategy. Users can open up accounts directly through Fidelity's digital platform, selecting their essentially preferred crypto assets and managing allocations within a familiar retirement framework. It's a user-friendly option that merges innovation with retirement investment tools. Millions are already trusting it. Genuinely, ask yourself a very simple question. If you are somebody right now inside the crypto space and you think the crypto space is doomed, you think it's finished, you think tariffs are about to destroy the crypto space, and this is it, game over for a while, why has Fidelity, ask yourself a very simple question, why has Fidelity decided to introduce a no-fee crypto IRA to American citizens for their pension funds today? Why is Fidelity offering a crypto service to pension funds today if the crypto space is doomed? Fidelity could have waited 6 months, 7 months, 8 months to introduce the service. Why are they doing it today on Liberation Day? Why are they doing it on the exact same day Trump decided to tariff the entire world? Out of all days, the day that seemed doomed for the crypto space. Because it isn't. Tariffs and wars are temporary. What's happening behind the scenes for the crypto space is lifetime. It's long-standing. Van Eck also today, not just Fidelity, but Van Eck, seeks SEC approval for a US first BNB ETF in Delaware filing. Again, ask yourself a simple question. If it's all doomed for the crypto space today, Liberation Day, Tariff Day was today, and it's all doomed for the crypto space, why has Van Eck bothered today out of all days to file for a BNB ETF? Out of all crypto assets, they decide to file for a BNB ETF on Liberation Day if the crypto space is all doomed. Van Eck, a prominent American investment management firm, massive American management firm, is set to launch the first Binance Coin BNB ETF in the United States. The firm filed to establish a trust entity in Delaware under filing number essentially 101-48820, as confirmed by public records on state essentially official websites. This development serves essentially as measures before formal application is submitted to the United States SEC. If essentially approved, the Van Eck BNB ETF would become the first US-based ETF to track the price of Binance's coin, the fifth largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization, while BNB-related products such as 21 shares Binance BNB ETPs are available on international markets. No similar ETF exists inside the United States. Van Eck previously introduced spot Bitcoins and Ether ETFs in January and July 2024. After obtaining SEC approval, it also registered standalone ETFs for Solana and Avalanche in Delaware as well. Meanwhile, the latest filings did not immediately impact BNB's market performance. In fact, the cryptocurrency is trading approximately $605 with a 1.36% decline in the past 24 hours and a 4.3% drop over the past week. BNB witnessed modest gains after President Donald Trump's financial venture of World Liberty Financial announced the launch of USD1 and USD-backed stablecoins on BNB's chain. A lot of positive things are happening on Liberation Day for the crypto space. Again, if the crypto space was doomed, none of these things will be happening today, out of all days. Another one, Alabama. Alabama greenlights state Bitcoin investment and a bold crypto embrace. In a potentially game-changing move for state finances and other broad cryptocurrency landscapes, Alabama has officially given the nod to Bitcoin and digital assets today. The decision to allow Alabama Bitcoin investment towards Bitcoin and other crypto assets is not taken lightly, and it's likely underpinned by the anticipation of several significant benefits. Enhanced state revenue. If cryptocurrency investments performs well, it could translate directly into increased revenue for the state of Alabama. This additional essential income could be used to fund crucial public services like education, infrastructure, and healthcare, ultimately benefiting Alabama's residents. Attracting tech innovation and talent. being a crypto-friendly state and send essentially a powerful message to technology and innovation sectors. It can attract blockchain companies, crypto startups, and talented professionals. Alabama boosting essentially the state's economy and creating new job opportunities. A hedge against inflation, potentially. Demonstrating forward-thinking governance. By embracing digital assets, Alabama is projecting an image of the state that is essentially progressive, adaptable, and willing to explore new frontiers in finance. This essentially can enhance the state's reputation, attract investments from both traditional and new essential economic sectors, and setting a precedent for other states. Alabama's move could inspire other states to consider a similar legislation. If successful, it could pave the way for wider adoption for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in all American United States. Alabama's decision to allow a state Bitcoin investment is more than just a mirror policy change. It's a revolutionary signal of the growing acceptance of integration of cryptocurrencies into the mainstream financial system. It reflects a bold vision for the future of state finances, one that embraces innovation and seeks to capitalize on the potential of digital wallets. While challenges undoubtedly lie ahead, Alabama's proactive approach could serve as a catalyst for other states to explore similar strategies, potentially ushering in a new era of diversified and digitally savvy public investments. The world will be watching closely to see how the bold experiment from Alabama unfolds and the precedent sets for the future of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for the United States. Again, this was announced on Liberation Day today. It could have been announced in any other day if the crypto space was doomed, but it got announced today from Alabama. Moving on from Alabama, from Japan, and all essentially regarding the green lights that have happened today. And just for a second, we're going to talk about HBAR. So news is going around, apparently, that HBAR is, the HBAR Foundation is going to join the founder of OnlyFans to start up a bid on TikTok. So apparently HBAR, with the founder of OnlyFans, wants to buy TikTok. If that happens, then I do see without a doubt 100% HBAR being incorporated into TikTok in some sort of a way. If that happens, TikTok has roughly about 1 billion users. If 1 billion users suddenly open up HBAR wallets on a TikTok app, that could immensely shoot up HBAR's price. Zoop, the social app created by OnlyFans founder Tim and the HBAR Foundation, have reportedly submitted a bid to purchase the video sharing app TikTok in the United States. According to essentially to a report that came out from retailers today, the HBAR Foundation and Zoop have filed an intent to bid on TikTok with the Trump administration previous week. The bid will essentially will allow and follow others from major technology companies, including Amazon or Coral, Microsoft, and Rumble, in an attempt to keep the video sharing app services alive for US users. Our bid essentially for TikTok isn't just about changing ownership. It's about creating a new paradigm where both creators and their communities can benefit directly from the value they generate. Yeah, HBAR is definitely going to be incorporated into TikTok with roughly about 1 billion users. If, obviously, HBAR Foundation, the founder of OnlyFans, are able to purchase it. In 2004, the US Congress passed and former President Joe Biden signed a bill into law that could potentially ban TikTok if the firm's operations weren't separated from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance. The initial deadline for the sale of the company under the law was January 19th. After essentially coming into office, President Donald Trump signed a 75-day extension for enforcement, pushing the potential TikTok sale until April 5th. The HBAR Foundation is an organization working with Hedera HBAR, which had market capitalization of more than $7.3 billion at the time of publication. Cointelegraph reached out to the foundation of Zoop regarding the TikTok deal, but did not receive a response at the time of publication. It's unclear how Trump intends to proceed with the sale or ban of TikTok. He could likely sign another extension to delay the enforcement of the law, but only an act of Congress could essentially countermand it essentially further. The US president planned to announce the sweeping tariffs essentially that happened today also. Now, if that happens, if HBAR is able to purchase TikTok, that is definitely going to shoot up the price of HBAR, because in some sort of a way, The same way Telegram has a ton wallet. If you are somebody that uses Telegram, Telegram has roughly 1 billion users. And Telegram did decide to climb the ladder, but unfortunately, essentially, Ton did decide to climb the ladder, but the founder of Telegram was apprehended in France, and that's when Ton started tumbling down. It's almost like Ton shouldn't be climbing that ladder in the crypto space. But we'll leave that for another time. But HBAR acquiring TikTok, I could potentially see what Telegram was trying to do with Ton wallets. But TikTok is very established, and there's a lot of creators on TikTok making a lot of money. So maybe some way HBAR could pay out these creators in HBAR, for example. That could push up the price of HBAR. Now, Wall Street is what we'll talk about next. Wall Street giant DTCC has just unveiled tokenized collateral platform in Crypto Push. So again, today was Liberation Day. Tariff world, essentially tariff the entire world. And out of all days, the day that some people assume it's all doom and essentially it's all doomed for the crypto space, Wall Street giant DTC has decided to introduce today, out of all days, this. The Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, DTCC, the world's largest securities settlement system, is pushing deeper into crypto with introducing a blockchain-based platform for tokenized collateral management. Today, out of all days. These are questions that people should be asking themselves. If you are somebody inside the crypto space right now who thinks it's all doomed for, that the crypto space is finished for a while, ask yourselves these questions. Why is the DTCC, a ginormous firm in Wall Street, going towards crypto today on Liberation Day, where the world's been tariffed and the market's all downswinging? Why are they coming to the market space today, out of all days? Because those are signs that it's not doomed in any sort of way. Crypto is not doomed. And that people are really, really focused on tariffs and wars, which are very, very temporary. Collateral is a fundamental part of risk management in financial markets, ensuring stability aimed market fluctuations. However, traditional systems often suffer from essential inefficiencies due to fragmented infrastructure and lagging settlements. DTCC said its new platform seeks to address these challenges by tokenizing collateral on blockchain rails, allowing for real-time transfers and automations through smart contracts. According to a press release that came out today, the platform runs within DTCC's app chain ecosystem, which was developed on the top of the LF decentralized trust, essentially Bezos blockchain. Collateral Mobility is the killer app for institutional use of blockchain. Dan Donny, the chief technology officer of DTCC Digital Assets, said in a statement. So this is what he said. By using smart contracts to automate the full range of collateral options, we enable complex trade executions across markets in real time at any time, even in volatile conditions. This platform is unique in that we've created something that's more open, flexible, dynamic, and comprehensive than any other previous digital collateral initiative, said Nadine, essentially the global head of DTCC Digital Assets. The initiative comes as tokenization of traditional instruments such as bonds, funds, and other traditional investments has become one of the hottest use cases for blockchain technology. Multiple financial heavyweights like BlackRock, CME Group, and Fidelity have thrown their hats in the ring, pursuing benefits such as operational efficiencies, speedier settlements, and increased transparency compared to using traditional financial plumbing. DTCC will showcase essentially the platform's capabilities at the Great Collateral Experiment event at April 23rd. On April 23rd, DTCC made their announcement today. DTCC is going to show the whole world on April 23rd what this platform is capable of doing and why everybody should sign up to it. Well, high-profile investors. Where industry participants will test how tokenized assets can be mobilized across markets. The company said it also plans to engage with regulators and industry leaders to establish global standards for tokenized collateral. Again, this was announced on Liberation Day, the day that some people assume crypto is doomed for today. They decided to make that announcement today. Republicans is what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about Republicans, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, if you are somebody that's essentially, if you watch us for the first time ever, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to answer questions you may have. So let's go to the comment section first, and then we go straight into the Republican news regarding House majority votes, which is very positive for the crypto space. Let's see where we're at. We were at here. When will we see parabolic rise of altcoins? In your opinion, how good will CFX do this year? CFX will do well in the Asian market space rather than the Western market space. It's very Asian market space focused. Regarding CFX, will do well in the Asian market space. Now, regarding the parabolic altcoins rise, regulations need to be there. No more gray areas regulations. Fair enough, the OCC said banks can start utilizing crypto assets. Fair enough, the CFPB said the same thing, and the FDIC, but regulations still need to be there. And the SEC is doing quite a lot of public roundtables, especially this month, where, essentially whatever they talk about regarding the crypto space is going to be shared worldwide. It's a public event, essentially, what the SEC is going to do. They want to be very transparent with the crypto space, which is amazing to see from the SEC. But regulations need to be there. So, and in my opinion, regulations are going to happen very soon. While everybody's focused on tariffs and war scenarios, behind the scenes, a lot of things are happening for the crypto space. The foundation is being laid in while everybody's focused on things that are temporary. Tariffs are temporary. So is war. What's happening behind the scenes is not temporary, it's long-lasting, it's lifetime, and it's the foundation that's being built for the crypto space. And that everybody's focus needs to be shifted back to crypto, rather than, obviously, realizing what's happening around you regarding tariffs and war is a good thing. But don't let that deter you from the fact that a lot of things are happening inside the crypto space, that a foundation is being built for crypto space. And don't think the crypto space, even for a second, is doomed. Even for a second. But very soon, in my opinion. This year is still going to be incredible. Downsides and up, and away. Facts. Buying the dip 100%. Let's go, Shelly. Definitely buying the dip while it's dipping low. Let's go, Autistic. It's worth it. Facts. Let's go, Dazzle. Buy the dip, folks. Let's go, Pierce. Republicans is what we'll talk about next. Republicans expand. And by the way, the past week, I've been sharing you news regarding all the institutions that are entering the crypto space. And who is the next clientele entering the crypto space that was mentioned about 6 months ago? Institutions. Ironically, as the institutions, one by one, are entering the crypto space every day, we have tariff and wars. And some people assume the crypto space is doomed. And the institutions are entering the crypto space one by one every day, making announcements one by one every day. While some people are essentially very, very fixated on things that are temporary. Coordinated or coincidence? Time will tell. Republicans expand the House majority as crypto-backed candidates win key Florida races. So, crypto companies are still backing, essentially, politicians. I revealed a while ago that essentially Ripple and Coinbase, regarding the crypto super PAC, came together a long time ago and started essentially funding a lot of Republicans, hence why we had a clean sweep of Republicans alongside Trump. So here it is. Republican candidates Jimmy and Randy won in Florida's special congressional elections, extending the GOP's narrow House majority with strong support from crypto super PACs. Fine essentially won 56.7% of the vote against Democratic Josh, and the other essentially Republican won on a basis of 57% in terms of votes. The Wisconsin and Florida special elections were crucial to gaining a narrow Republican majority required to push forward the pro-crypto legislation on stablecoins and market structures, which is still pending in Congress. Both Republican campaigns received substantial fundings from Defund American Jobs and crypto PAC members of wider Fair Share, essentially political funding networks. In January alone, Fair Share essentially raised more than $160 million to support the 2026 midterm elections, and the network also donated about $133 million to support the 2024 elections, Ideally, its funding essentially has helped the GOP win seats in every category in recent months, and it comes close to securing regulatory support. And the funding is coming from Ripple and Coinbase. Ripple and Coinbase have put money aside to fund politician campaigns, even in 2026, because now they know how the game is played. Following the victories in Florida and Wisconsin, Defend American Jobs sent an email stating that the two essential Republicans had shown a strong commitment to advancing policies that support cryptocurrencies, ensuring that the US led the world regarding digital assets and cryptocurrency innovations, based on essentially their agreements. Their election was a victory for American jobs, innovations, and leadership, and for the crypto space, regarding the two people that just won in Florida. Their victory is also good news for the cryptocurrency industry immensely. Interestingly, the 14-point victory margin was significantly less than the 30-point lead that President Trump had in the same district in the previous November. However, there was a key difference in the campaign. Fund inflows, which could essentially have been contributed to the hedge point gap, finds essentially campaign received a roughly $1 million, while Wild's essentially campaign had about $10 million. Meanwhile, before the election started, Fairshake essentially earned support from notable companies and individuals, including blockchain payment startup Ripple. Ripple was one of the companies that funded the politicians that just won right now. Republican politicians that just won essentially that won in Florida were funded by Ripple, these politicians. Ripple knows how the game is played now. Exchange operator Coinbase also had a hand. Tech investor Anderson Howards and Gemini co-founders Cameron and Tyler also had a hand. On April 1st, voters cast ballots in Wisconsin, which essentially long battle state. However, on the contrary to Republican essentially expectations, liberal judge essentially Susan Corfield won the state Supreme Court race. Speaking at the Madison Victory Rally, Corfield essentially expressed gratitude to her supporters, saying that the votes helped send a message to the entire nation. She essentially argued that Wisconsin residents successfully repelled an unprecedented assault on their Supreme Court's democracy and the free of their fair elections. I'll be honest, the only one, genuinely the only one that is against fair elections. The only people that are against freedom of speech, human rights, and fair elections are Democratic politicians and liberal politicians. Although they pretend it's the Republicans and Donald Trump, in reality, it's really not. It's the Democratic politicians and the liberals. In the past, under Biden's administration, if you said anything against liberals and essentially liberals or Democrats, you would have essentially had your account banned, your company would be tanking, and so on. There'd be so many situations. And then the liberals, the liberal politicians, and the Democratic politicians, ironically, campaign on the slogans of freedom of speech, human rights, your voice is heard. So what happened to the people's voices when they got cancelled? Although she did not mention Elon Musk's name directly, she did essentially discuss defeating his major spending push during the contest. Corfield added that the conservative candidate, Brad, had asked her to essentially concede. She, however, praised him for his kindness and wished him and his family the best. Finally, she shared a quote from essentially Thurgood Marshall, the late Justice of the Supreme Court, which she said was appropriate for this event, the unprecedented moment we are living in today. So Republicans did win in Florida, but one moronic, essentially, Supreme Judge did also win from the Democratic side. And she made slogans of freedom of speech, human rights, and your voice is heard. Moving on, essentially from that, but immensely, incredible news for Republicans once again, and for Ripple funding these politicians once again to get them on their side. Amazing work from Ripple, amazing work from Coinbase, and from Howard Anderson, and from the brothers, the Gemini co-founder brothers. Incredible work for funding all these Republican politicians to get their votes in and making the crypto space a much more better place along the way. Now, talking about Galaxy Digital, massive firm inside the blockchain sector, has just been approved inside the United Kingdom. Galaxy secures a UK approval for license to expand derivatives trading inside the United Kingdom. Galaxy Digital UK, the subsidiary of Mike Novoscott, led digital asset financial services firm application for a license to execute derivatives tradings inside the United Kingdom has been approved by the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, inside the United Kingdom. The firm's investment banking arm will also use Galaxy Digital UK's FCA authorization to provide capital raising and investment banking services, according to a statement that was put out today. The Galaxy UK subsidiary will also support its asset management business with fund distribution activities. The Galaxy Digital UK is one of the Financial Conduct Authority's investment firms register, which is essentially for the firms authorized to perform MIFID investment services or activities. Galaxy also joined the FCA crypto register back in 2021. London is a critical financial hub, and this authorization allows us to deepen our presence inside the United Kingdom, aligning with our mission to bridge traditional finance with the digital asset ecosystem, said the CEO of Galaxy Europe and global head of sales. So, Galaxy Digital, massive blockchain firm inside the United States, has just got an approval from the FCA to expand in terms of the blockchain services in the United Kingdom. Incredible news. Very positive for the crypto space. Grayscale is what we'll talk about next. Grayscale decided on Liberation Day, Tariff Day, to introduce this. Grayscale has just launched 2 new Bitcoin ETFs to generate passive income. Grayscale Investments has today launched 2 new Bitcoin ETF funds designed to help investors make money from Bitcoin's price swings. According to the press release, the 2 products are Grayscale's Bitcoin Covered Call ETF, BTCC is the ticker, and the Grayscale Bitcoin Premium Income ETF, BPI is the ticker. Basically, these funds are all about using Bitcoin's ups and downs to generate extra cash. BTCC is built around a covered call strategy, meaning it makes money by selling options on Bitcoin at prices close to its current market value. And since Bitcoin's price is known to jump up and down, this method is designed to capture high premiums from those options and turn the volatility into income. Grayscale says that this fund could help essentially a good addition for investors who already hold Bitcoin and want to earn extra on the side. Meanwhile, BPI takes a different approach by selling options at a higher strike prices and prices further away from Bitcoin's current market value. It does this essentially by using Bitcoin ETFs, including Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust, GBTC ticker, and Grayscale's Bitcoin Mini Trust, BTC. Essentially, the strategy tries to balance growth potential while still giving investors a regular essentially stream of income. This is what they said. By focusing on this type of call writing strategy, BPI allows investors to participate in much of Bitcoin's upside potential while possibly benefiting from some dividend income. Grayscale said in an announcement, both ETFs are meant to offer investors a different way to make money from Bitcoin without actually owning it. They provide essentially monthly payouts and use automated systems to manage the option strategy. The company says these funds will give investors a steady, uncorrelated income source that isn't tied to traditional market spaces. And Grayscale has been making big moves in terms of ETF spaces. The company recently filed for an ETF that would hold multiple cryptocurrencies, which we've been discussing the past week about, regarding Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Cardano, that are all essentially in one big package of an ETF from Grayscale. But again, out of all days, Liberation Day is today, the tariff day is today. Every country is essentially getting tariffs today. That happened already. And it seemed like it's doomed for the crypto space to some people's eyes inside the crypto space. But if you see through all the BS, you start asking yourself some questions of why is Fidelity launching out of all days today? Why is essentially Grayscale launching out of all days today? Why is Fidelity essentially applying for a ETF for BNB today? Out of all days, Liberation Day, when crypto is doomed. Because it isn't. Now, Switzerland. Digital shift in Swiss economy shows substantial opportunity for Swiss stablecoins, and Bitcoin Swiss says. So, Switzerland's economy has shown early signs of complete digitalization. More people are using digital payments in Switzerland than they are using cash. As digital transactions have now surpassed cash payments, according to a new survey that was done in Switzerland. Switzerland has long favored cash, with an average person holding around $10,481 essentially dollars in bills or coins. It's been a cultural norm, value for privacy and ease. But a new survey from the Swiss National Bank appears that it shows that the debit cards have now engaged out of cash as most common way to pay. The survey found that in 2024, 35% of in-store purchases in Switzerland were made by debit cards, overtaking cash, which made up 30%. That's a big jump from 2017, when only 21% of payments were made with cards, and 70% were essentially still in cash. For years, the Swiss held onto their cash-based culture, even as digital payments became more popular elsewhere. But now, experts say that the shift to cashless payments isn't all that surprising. In an interview with Bloomberg, Alexandra, an economist at the Switzerland, essentially the Raffinon Switzerland, said international comparisons show that German-speaking countries in particular are very attached to cash, unlike the Netherlands and the Scandinavians. He also noted that the pandemic has accelerated the move away from it also here, which is true. If you look at the timeline of COVID and the timeline of the World Bank on their blockchain testing, which came out successful, and then COVID started, and people started moving away from cash because cash carried germs, raises many questions of coincidence when it came to COVID, or coordinated for many reasons. Despite the growing trend of digital payments, Switzerland remains one of the world's top holders of cash. The country is ranked second in terms of largest average cash holdings per person, not only to Luxembourg, yet the shift away from cash continues in Switzerland, a country that's famously known for cash only. The SNB in October essentially announcement, the Swiss National Bank announcement that came out, that public transport operators are planning to reduce cash acceptance, further underscores this trend. In an interview with essentially Crypto.news, Dominic, the head of research at Bitcoin Suisse AG, suggested that Switzerland increasing adoption of cards to cash signals a broader openness to digital norms of money. While crypto payments remain a niche today, the transition to digital means of payments creates a fertile soil for utility. Switzerland is talking about utility when it comes to crypto now, especially given that 8% of the global population now own crypto. Worldline already supports crypto at 85,000 plus merchants, and cities like Laguna, for instance, are accepting Bitcoin or stablecoins for everyday transactions in Switzerland. Wiebel, also Dominic, also pointed to cities like Laguna where Bitcoin and stablecoins are already essentially accepting for everyday transactions as a sign of growing acceptance. And he went on to say, we expect adoption to develop from a novel concept when it comes to cryptocurrencies into a broader optionality in the retail domain, although at a relatively slower pace than any other country, where essentially debasing domestic currencies catalyst demand for tokenized dollars. So even though Switzerland was very, very well known for cash, and if you understand why Switzerland was very, very well known for cash, is because whenever somebody wants to go on a very long vacation because their own country was trying to find out where their funds were coming, they would always run to Switzerland for a reason, because Switzerland was very accepting of everyone who had a lot of money. So that's why Switzerland was very known for cash, because they don't like to ask questions of where that money came from. The Swiss National Bank survey also revealed that 18%, and they are moving towards crypto payments. The Swiss National Bank survey also revealed that 18% of payments in the country were made via mobile payment apps, while credit cards accounted for 14%. Addressing the growing acceptance of mobile payments, Dominic says a significant role for stablecoins and tokenized assets in Switzerland's evolving landscape, saying that stablecoins are positioned to capture the largest piece of the cake, since they can remove the volatility headache linked to crypto assets also. While dollar-dominated stablecoins currently sport essentially 99% of market penetration, there is a substantial opportunity for Swiss stablecoin. The increasing adoption of mobile payment apps like TWINT already indicate the willingness to embrace novel payment technologies. The next logical step, Dominic essentially argues, is that tokenized Swiss francs that can plug into both mobile apps to streamline payments while unlocking novel functionalities like instant settlements, smart contracts, automations, and opportunities of decentralized finance. Despite the country's increasing resilience on digital payments, the Swiss National Bank has made it clear that it does not intend to rush the introduction of central bank digital currencies. It tends to not rush CBDCs. I'll tell you why that's a big lie. And they explain why it's a big lie in their own paragraph without realizing by the looks of it. Particularly as it remains a cautions about essentially potential cost and privacy concerns associated with digital money. It goes back to essentially the people of essentially Switzerland, the people that go to Switzerland for particular reasons. As Thomas, a senior economist at the Swiss National Bank, explained back in 2021 in an interview, he said the central bank is wary of replacing cash with CBDCs as risk outweigh the benefits compared to the existing systems. And that he further emphasized that one of the key factors in Switzerland's reluctance to introduction of so-called e-francs, which is a CBDC, essentially franc, is its focus on data protection, noting that one advantage of cash is that you can use it to pay completely anonymously. If, on the other hand, you pay digitally, a lot of data is generated, not only financial data, but also data of what you buy and where you are at any given time. And obviously people who go to Switzerland to be hidden from everybody else. For a very long vacation they go for normally. Again, it just goes back to Switzerland doesn't like to ask questions of where anybody's money came from. A cash usage declining in Switzerland pointed to a recent developments in Swiss banks, such as UBS, issuance of digital bonds, and the active running of the Swiss National Wholesale CBDC pilot, the active running of the Wholesale Swiss National CBDC pilot. He pointed out that institutional engagements with blockchain infrastructure is demonstrating a clear acceleration, adding that Bitcoin Swiss AG expects this trend to manifest further across multiple institutions and verticals in the months and years ahead. If they start making everybody go towards digital payments, let's just say, because they've got to lure people in somehow. When it comes to CBDCs, they have to lure people in somehow. They're either going to lure people in with discounts when it comes to CBDCs, which is what Russia's tried to do. When Russia decided to introduce their CBDCs, the Russian ruble, to their own citizens, first they said it's not going to replace cash, and it's just going to be alongside cash. And we're not going to force anybody to use the Russian rubles. And then a little bit of time passed, and Russia said, all merchants have to accept Russian ruble CBDCs. It went from we're not forcing to everybody has to, accept Russian ruble CBDC. And then a little bit more time passed, and then they said, if you use the Russian ruble CBDC, you can get discount on public transports. So if you go to work using public transport, the train, for example, the bus, or any other essential form of transport, you can get discounts using CBDCs. And then a little bit of time passed, and then they said, well, essentially everywhere around you is, in terms of banks and essentially ATM and cash points are disappearing also, which just, in terms of sanctions, it also makes sense to go towards digital payments. What I am trying to say is that in one form or a way or another, they're going to lure people into CBDCs. They're going to lure people into CBDCs with discounts on CBDCs. They're going to lure people in on the ideology of it's just going to work alongside cash. CBDCs isn't going to overtake cash, is what they keep on telling people. Even though banks have been closing down since COVID. There's a reason why banks have been closing down since COVID. Nobody found it odd that a virus spreads, random virus spreads, and banks close down. Nobody found it odd of what correlates it? Why is COVID happening and banks are closing? What's the correlation here? It's because the World Bank was doing testings on blockchain, and they needed a good reason of how they can shift people away from cash. And they came to the conclusion that germs is the best way to move people away from cash. Cash carries germs. So World Bank testing with blockchain successful, COVID starts. Same time, banks closing down one by one. Cash points closing down one by one. Businesses not accepting cash anymore one by one. It's almost like they wanted you to walk towards digital payments without you realizing it. And regarding this matter of Switzerland, essentially, Switzerland saying, essentially, we're not pushing people towards CBDCs in any sort of a way, but, a lot of places in Switzerland are going to stop using cash, and people are already starting to move away from cash. and we're going to keep the crypto and stable coins, and we're not going to push people to CBDCs. But at the same time, we're going to still keep our CBDC operation going, obviously. It's because once they get everybody, either by luring them in with CBDC discounts or luring them in some sort of way, or with the idea of, let's just use crypto. We can, for CBDCs, we could just leave it there on the sidelines. Let's just use crypto. Once they get everybody off cash, and then everybody's on crypto, if that's the option they're going to take, then it's very easy to shift them onto CBDCs. But this is why I say, you want to be inside, because we're going towards a digital world. We're going towards, in terms of a CBDC world. As much as presidents and prime ministers around the world might tell you that CBDCs won't happen, that will prevent it in any sort of a way, nobody can prevent CBDCs. Not a single person can prevent CBDCs. And that the only way, again, essentially, to the benefit from CBDCs is to be in the backbone of CBDCs, which the backbone essentially being there's only one company that has an active CBDC platform. Out of 24,000, 25,000, 26,000, 30,000 blockchain projects, there's only one that has an active CBDC platform, multiple CBDC awards, which I've said multiple times, and it is Ripple. Ripple is the only one that has an active CBDC platform, multiple CBDC awards. 98% of the world is in CBDCs in terms of their centralized banks. And again, while tariffs are happening, while wars are happening, they're all temporary. Behind the scenes, foundations being laid in for regulations for stablecoins, legislations, and one by one cases are being dropped. And one by one institutions are entering the market space. And this year is the year of CBDC releases from quite a lot of countries. Another topic of Ripple, Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin goes live on Kraken, BKK for essentially Forex, iCent, and RLUSD gets integrated into Ripple payments. Ripple's US dollar peg stablecoin RLUSD has just gone live on crypto exchange Kraken and is now being used in real-time cross-border payment flows, the company announced today. The move is a key step to Ripple's broader strategy to integrate RLUSD into its payment infrastructure and push further into the stablecoin arena, where demand is climbing and legislative frameworks are finally taking shape in Washington. The reason why Ripple has such a pull in Washington, the reason why Ripple has such a strong pull in Washington is because the reason why we had a massive Republican sweep is because of Ripple and Coinbase. They funded quite a tremendous amount of politicians. And they're still funding politicians for 2026 campaigns. There's a reason why Trump announced in the crypto essentially stockpile, XRP was the first token mentioned, a crypto asset that was sued into the ground by the SEC, but still stands strong in the top 10. And then suddenly, the United States president mentions it as the first token. Ripple said essentially BK Forex and iCent, two of its Ripple payment platforms, are already using RLUSD to streamline cross-border treasury operations. More partners are expected to follow in. RLUSD is being used in the Ripple payment flows, select customers. Ripple noted in a statement, adding to the stablecoin will gradually become available to other institutional clients on the network. Since launching in December, RLUSD's market cap has grown over to $240 million, according to the company. Ripple's SVP of stablecoins, Jack McDonald, said the token is seeing a demand in both crypto and traditional financial markets, including as collateral and trading essential environments. We're seeing the market cap continue to grow, McDonald said. RLUSD is being used for a number of use cases. The timing of the announcement comes as stablecoins once again dominate headlines. In Washington, lawmakers are preparing to vote on stablecoin legislations that could set a much more clearer rule around the issuance and oversights. Meanwhile, other players are also crowdfunding into the space, including World Liberty Financial, who's trying to come in with their own essentially version of a stablecoin. Globally, Tether's USDT remains the dominant player in stablecoins, but the field is widening fast. And Ripple's bet is that increased clarity from regulators paired with existing enterprise networks could give RLUSD a staying power in the market where usage is rising, but trust and transparency are still short in supply. The reason why Ripple will have, genuinely, the reason why Ripple will have an edge in terms of a stable coin essential market space against USDT, while USD will have an edge against USDT. And I know a lot of people inside the crypto space might say, no, USD is never going to go to #1 place. No, USD is never going to go above USDT. No, USD is never going to go above USDC and so on. And there are people that may say these things. But those people don't understand how politics works. Because if those people understood how politics works, they would understand why XRP was mentioned first by the United States president. Because that's how politics works. You fund campaigns, you shake enough hand in politics, they can open up doors for you like that. And a lot of people should realize that Ripple is very close with Washington, closer than ever. And they are still funding campaigns for Republicans even to 2026. They're putting money aside for Republican politicians for next year. On that note of it's not all doom and gloom, and there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, we have come to the endings of tonight's live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, this is called the CMF Live, and it stands for Crypto Mouse Family. And my name is Mouse. And essentially, I'm hosting a live that you're watching right now. You can tune into this live Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. You can tune in Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time, where I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. And we also do Q&As on this live as well. As always, if you have, I always encourage people to get involved inside the comment section. Never be shy. If you have a question, go for it. And a disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And honestly, thank you so much to every single person who has, from the CMF, and if you're new, thanks so much to every single person who has liked this live from the CMF. If you're watching this on X, thanks so much to everyone from the CMF who's liked this live on X, who's retweeted this live on X, who's put a comment outside the live on X, and liked each other's comments, and hashtag the XRP on me. And thanks so much to everyone on YouTube who's watching right now, who's also liked the live from CMF, and put a comment outside the live as well. And if you followed me during this live, thank you so much, and welcome to the CMF. If you subscribe to me on YouTube, welcome to the CMF as well. Tune in Monday to Friday in this live. And this is episode 291 of the CMF Live. This is episode 291. Tune in for episode 292 tomorrow, 11:25 p.m. UK time. So before we do go, obviously, let's go inside the comment section. I don't want to miss out on anyone's comments. Miles, you by the tip, folks. Let's go, Pierce. Miles, you missed my comment. Cass, what was your comment? Cass, your comment was up, down, or sideways this week. Okay. This week, down. So I would say DSU. DSU is what's going to be this week. DSU. Downside is up. Miles, is there a way to find out which investing companies are getting into crypto? Yeah, by following the news, but I can probably keep on sending you, essentially, or sharing you on this live. But the easiest way is just to keep up with the announcements that are being made, essentially, by these establishments. Nice house, dude. Thank you. It's not my house. It's a green screen. As you can see, this is a green screen. But thank you for the comment on the green screen. We are getting closer and closer. Let's go, Peg. Good night, Miles, and all CMF. Thank you for a great live on news. JP, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual, brother. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Many thanks. See you tomorrow. Ian, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, Miles and family. Great live as always. See you tomorrow. Ian, see you tomorrow. JP, see you tomorrow. Orphan, good night, Miles and CMF. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Mike, great live. Thank you, and see you tomorrow. Let's go. Mike, see you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Thanks, Legend. Much appreciated. Night and day, CMF. Let's go, Shelly. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thank you, Miles and CMF. Susie, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles, and great live, brother. Let's go, Cali. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great live, as always. Night, Miles. See you same time tomorrow. Artistic. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. CMF. See everybody tomorrow for episode 292, same time as usual. 11:25 p.m. UK time, United Kingdom time. See you later.